Okay, my fellow Americans, I believe today's date is September 20th. It's Wednesday, 2017, and my name is Leslie Williams. I live in La Jolla, California, which is located in San Diego County. I am a target, victim, and activist concerning the continued criminal expeditions of what is known as GangStalking. Now, that is the name of a crime. Okay, it is not stalking by gangs. At any time, you can go into this Periscope account and research. I suggest you research every single video. Okay, now what I did pertaining to this video is I incorporated a tweet link in the title of this Periscope video. All you have to do is write down the URL characters of it, and then type the characters in at your URL address bar in order to bring that tweet up. Now, what I did was I copied and pasted my current blog excuse me, in that tweet link. So once you bring up the tweet link, the only thing you'll have to do is to literally press on the link of the blog in order to bring it up. That blog holds massive amounts of evidence, but understand and know it is hacked. The perpetrators have hacked every single one of my email accounts, YouTube accounts, blog accounts. Okay. Ever since I started exposing what has been happening to me through email accounts, YouTube accounts, and blog accounts going all the way back to 2004 and 5. I've even been on national radio shows, which are most of those shows that I've been on, their links are incorporated within the blog. You can also pay attention to the radio show, the Ground Zero national radio show that I was on 9/01/2015. That particular show was about how whistleblowers' accounts are being hacked online and much more. So what you want to do when you go into that blog is the first thing you want to do is you want to scan through the blog until you find the areas within the blog, okay, that expose the national radio shows. Now, these national radio shows that are incorporated within the blog also have the sections of the blog that have the national radio shows, most of the ones that I've been on. There's a few that I've been on that are not incorporated within the blog. Okay, those sections within the blog have instructions pertaining to what you need to listen for and look at pertaining to the subject matter of each particular show. So within that blog, there is a few sections within that blog where the national radio shows were repasted several times, and that was because I haven't had the time yet to go back and take out some of those that because I was building on the blog as I went, and then as additional things transpired, I felt it necessary to repaste it, and before I got a chance to go out and go in and take out the other sections where that same information was put in there, I didn't have time to take it out. So just, when you see the sections within the blog where the national radio shows are repeatedly pasted, just know that that's what has occurred, and I haven't had time to modify it yet. So hold on a second. I got a burp. Excuse me. I just got done eating. Now, periodically throughout this video, I will be checking to make sure that I'm still live broadcasting, because I have been cut off as I've been live streaming before on Periscope. If at any time that occurs, still research what I've stated up to that point. Now, this particular video is going to be about trying to help individuals who are watching this, and it is a lawyer video, meaning that this video will hopefully, as long as this Periscope account is not shut down by third parties, this video, along with the other lawyer videos, will eventually be presented to lawyers either physically by me and or through fax or mail. One of the reasons why I make my videos is because, like these lawyer videos, is because when you research all my descriptions that I state in this video, because what I'm going to do in this video is give you a synopsis, a preliminary introduction to some of the techniques of this crime, which is that the perpetrators engage in, which keeps the target of this crime isolated within it. So the crime then has time to be incrementally implemented against the target, so the crime motivation can be achieved. When you have somebody, like, let me give you an example of what I mean. Say if you have a woman, okay, who's a victim of domestic violence, and that woman has been trapped in a marriage or whatever type of relationship with the partner that's abusing them. A lot of people who engage in domestic violence are very skilled. Their mentality pertaining to what they do to their abuse victim is basically a tradecraft. A lot of them are intentional predators, okay? And these predators operate on a tradecraft of skills that they perpetrate in order to keep the victimization, the crime victim, the abuse victim, in the victimization. Now, just pay attention to what I'm stating and bear with me for a second, because what I'm getting ready to state is going to give you a pictorial representation in your mind pertaining to how a lot of the same exact techniques are being used on gang stalking victims. So just bear with me a minute, because this explanation needs to be stated so you can see, so you can have a preliminary introduction pertaining to how easy it is to isolate any human being in victimization, so the victimization can continue, and so time can be given for the perpetrators, so the perpetrators have time to achieve their crime motivation. Any crime that is achieved towards any crime victim while that victim is being abused, time is expiring. Okay, for instance, say if you're in a store and a robber comes in and you're standing at the counter or anywhere in the store, once that robber walks into the store, time is dissipating. Time is going by. From the second that robber walks in that store, he has got an objective. He's got to do certain things, say certain things in order to achieve his crime. As that time is dissipating, actions and words are being said in order to achieve the crime, escape from the crime, okay, and in order to be able to get away with the crime. Now, gang stalking victims, one of the main things that occurs to them, which is just like if you're a victim of domestic violence, the perpetrator of domestic violence will sabotage relationships of the target, of their crime victim. They will isolate the target monetarily from monetary independence, meaning money. They'll take away the money and the means and resources of being able to make money, because money is one of the main tools that human beings use in order to sustain themselves independently. So if you don't have money to walk out of a house and catch a bus to maybe go to a friend's house or a domestic violence shelter that might not be infiltrated by these crime syndicates, if you don't have money to eat for a week as you're trying to escape, even if you don't have money to buy a tent so you can run to the woods and get away from this individual, then that individual knows that the victim, they automatically know that money will help sustain a crime victim. So if a crime victim doesn't have a penny, the perpetrator will know that they can control that person, because they know that everybody has to eat, they have to sleep, they have to be able to have a resource to drink water. So if a human being doesn't have a penny to be able to leave a house in order to be able to go somewhere to even sleep in the woods, whether they have a blanket or not, okay, if they're not able to walk into a grocery store even to buy a ramen noodle, okay, package of ramen noodles, then the perpetrator of this crime knows it. Okay, they know that all human beings have to eat, that they have to have some type of shelter to protect them from the elements and the wildlife that might be in any type of wooded area, including rats. Okay, so what that person's going to do is they're going to take away the money and the means to make money. They're going to sabotage friendships. They're going to sabotage family relationships. Okay, they're going to psychologically and mentally and emotionally victimize that person into the mindset of hopelessness. And this is what gang stalking does. Because gang stalking, in order for them to be able to achieve their crimes by and through, but not limited to, using normal appearing excuses, reasons, and mishaps, okay, the only way that these demented, criminally insane animals can by the time they need to incrementally implement the techniques that they use in order to take the target down the rabbit hole that eventually leads them to the human trafficking, the prostitution rings, the illegal probate control for racketeering purposes, insurance fraud, and human trafficking inside a syndicated run group home they're put in, they need time to do this. Now, the courts and the police and the prosecutor's office and doctors play a huge role in this because it's organized crime in the system. Hold on a second. And these are the employment descriptions and persons that are the gang of gang stalking. Now, the stalking of gang stalking is illegal GPS tracking and covert physical surveillance. Okay. Now, all the mechanisms and techniques that are used to bring the target before the courts, so the courts can then say, well, from what you're like, because the courts are designed pertaining to these crimes and how the courts are useful in the prosecutors and public defenders and members of the DA's office and the police who all work together in a covert partnering relationship in order to achieve the criminal motivations. They know how the court system runs, meaning that they know what techniques that they have to employ within the court to make it appear that they're following court procedures. They also know they're dealing, though, with a victim, pertaining to me, that has massive, undeniable evidence. Thousands of audio files of evidence, indisputable evidence, video files, paper trails, confessions, video confessions of law enforcement. Okay, and all of it is, it's literally black and white in your face evidence. Now, but the crime of gang stalking operates by and through, but not limited to, absolutely not limited to, by trying to claim that the victim of the crime is crazy or mentally ill, okay, and or that they can't take care of themselves, and or that they're a threat to themselves or others. Those are the main legal apparent excuses that they use in order to get the syndicated probate control for racketeering inside a syndicated run group home that the target is put in as a result of these lies, criminally perpetrated within the court proceedings. Now, they will also use doctors. One way that they can try and get around a technique that they can absolutely employ when they know they're dealing with a target who's got massive audio, video, paper trail evidence, and so on, that indisputably proves that the victim is a victim of this crime, is by staging an event in order to mentally and or physically provoke the target to act out. When they stage events, which are called street daters and gang stalking crimes, they will also stage the witnesses. And when they stage events, they will use any type of person for them: a mother with her infant, an elderly person, a veteran, a person who's like wearing veteran caps, kids, teenagers. They'll use anybody, any type of person, okay, including respectable environments like churches, charities, self-help groups, homeless shelters, domestic violence shelters. And this is where additional employment descriptions can come into play. They'll also use places like the San Diego Homeless Rescue Mission, who's been on the news as being nothing but an absolute added benefit to our community in reference to helping the homeless community. They're nothing but an absolute, definite, and complete organized crime syndicated run service. That's all they are, period, end of story. No matter what they ever say, no matter how nice and great they appear in any news broadcast, because I've seen them online. Now, one of the things that they'll do in order to escape the availability of the target to be able to present their evidence in court is by staging an event, and then once the police are called, everybody will point the finger at the target, and then they'll walk up to the target and the police will act like they're ready to hear the target's version of the event. The target opens up and says, well, I know this is because of gang stalking. They'll act like they don't know what gang stalking is. And then they'll bait the target to open up about it verbally. And then they'll say, from what you're saying, it sounds like you got mental issues and everybody else is pointing the finger at you. So we better take you to the psychiatric ward. Now, this can be Googled in reference to, like, why is it that you can go to Google and type in at Google psychiatric wards and gang stalking, county mental health and gang stalking, jails and gang stalking, detention centers and gang stalking, prisons and gang stalking, hospitals and gang stalking, doctors and gang stalking. Now, when you take those just four mentioned descriptions that I just literally stated to you, and you type them in at Google, and then go back and type in each description to organized stalking, because this crime goes by several names. The main two names it goes by is gang stalking and then organized stalking. So take all descriptions that I make in this video and the information in my blog and type those descriptions into gang stalking, then go back and do separate searches to organized stalking, because you'll usually get better generated responses to organized stalking, but you can get some very, 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 very good ones to gang stalking, so do both. So what the cop will do is he'll say, well, everybody's pointing a finger at you concerning this event, and from what you're telling me, since you think this is because of gang stalking, and what you're describing sounds like you got a mental issue. So we're going to take you to the hospital so you can be seen by a doctor. And then and this is all part of the staged event. So when they take you to the hospital, they'll have the syndicated administrative staff who've already been briefed on what to do. They'll because they're part of the insurance firm. Okay. They'll take and then they'll bait the target to open up about the event. Okay. And then they'll put them in a psychiatric ward within the hospital, or take them to a connected, affiliated medical center, which is basically nothing but a housing unit where they, it's just like a psychiatric ward. And what they'll do is be forced to see a doctor, and the doctor will try and act like he's following procedures for the sake of the video cameras on their walls. And they'll deny that they know anything about gang stalking, and then they'll act like they're taking a look at the police reports. They'll even petition a court to get a hold of any medical or mental records concerning you. And if you have anything already on your medical or mental record that came from previous gang stalking staged events, all of those diagnoses are false. Now, they already know that those diagnoses are there because this is a nationwide syndicate which operates on a template of protocols, methods, and tactics, identical ones. And I'll get into that a little bit later. Okay, so they already know that it was a state. They already know why you're there. Privately, they already know why you're there. They are literally part of the organized crime syndicate. Okay. So, but what they got to do in order to be able to use the court proceedings to get a hold of you for probate control for racketeering purposes, insurance fraud, and human trafficking inside a syndicated-run group home that is directly owned and connected to the organized crime syndicate that is doing all this to you. But they got to make it appear that all your evaluations are being done legitimately and legally for the sake of the video cameras and the falsified documentation. Okay, and they got to, in which these video conferences and pertaining to these meetings with the doctors and the falsified documentation is then presented to the court, and the court will then say, well, based on what we're seeing from your evaluations, we think that you have a issue and you can't take care of yourself because you're homeless. You won't get out of it. You claim you're homeless because you're being stalked. All these events that are occurring around you, concerning you, including possible verbal altercations that you're causing in stores or libraries or university campuses or on public transportation services. You claim all this is happening because you think you're being stalked, so you must be mentally ill, so we better take probate control of you. Now, this is the reason why they literally create the homelessness of the target. Because when you're homeless, you don't have a front door, meaning that there will stage events at wooded areas as well. Those stage events are designed for psychological trauma, assaults, robberies, and any event that produces the police coming to it. Do you honestly think the police don't know why women call them when they're being assaulted or harassed? Okay. So it's a staged event to even bait the target to call the police. The police will then come out and play their roles. They'll documentate how long the target's been homeless, by and through, but not limited to, repeating these events over time. And remember what I said at the beginning of this video, time is what they're buying. Hold on. Like, say, for instance, I'll get back to what I was stating a minute ago. I'll continue that in a minute. But I'm going to segue into this because it matters as well. It's part of it. See, it's all over Google that they're creating the homelessness of victims. So that can be extensively researched. And you'll see there's tens of thousands of people all over the internet exposing this crime, being victimized through this crime in the United States alone. Okay, all of them begging for help, and not one target, not one, has received any help from law enforcement, the courts, district attorney's offices, or governors. because it's an organized crime syndicate. It's a nationwide syndicate up and operating through state, county, and local municipalities. Okay, and law enforcement is directly connected to every last bit of it. Absolutely. Now, so they covertly create the homelessness by and through, but not limited to, covertly partnering with landlords, property owners, Section 8 city inspectors, fellow tenants of apartments, and so on and so forth. They stage events, they stage accusations, they stage complaints, and then use those events as normal apparent reasons to evict the target. They will monitor the target in real time at all times, 24/7, electronically, GPS tracking, and covert physical surveillance. If they see the target is attempting to apply for tenancy at another apartment building, okay, because the cyber activity of a target is also monitored. So if they see the targets looking up online, places to go and try and find another apartment at, they can see that through the cyber surveillance. They will then approach the prospective landlord or property owner of that place that the target is looking up. I mean, like when you get on Google and you look up an apartment complex pertaining to your budget, like you look up, like let's say if you decide to do an apartment search today on Google, you look up an apartment search, you look up the actual apartment pertaining to where it's at, you look up information pertaining to how much the apartment costs, and so they're monitoring everything the target's doing online. Cyber surveillance is a Methodist crime, Google. So they can see that the target's looking it up, that they've made a list of all these different apartment complexes that are within their price range, and then they're compiling a list and printing it out. Well, everything is monitored by these psycho animals. So what they'll do is employ the techniques of gang stalking, where they will compile a fake bogus criminal investigation file about the target. All this can be Googled. They will combine that with slander about the target, the badge, and they will literally go to that place and approach the property owner and or landlord, or call them and say, this is a person who's under criminal investigation, and we think it's in your best interest that if they ever come and apply for tenancy at your apartment, to not rent to them because of the criminal activity that we know they're involved in and that they're under investigation for. That's why you need to watch the YouTube video, Listen to a Stranger, as well. So this is how they keep the homelessness current, by and through the techniques of gang stalking. Okay. Now, what you got to understand here is that these are people that have in reference to the syndicate members, they have their own jobs, but they also have an additional job pertaining to what they do for the syndicate. And some of what they do for the syndicate is tailored to work within their regular job. Okay, hold on. Okay, so when you watch the YouTube video, Listen to a Stranger, I think it will give you a great introduction so you can see how easy it is for anybody who's law enforcement or anybody impersonating law enforcement to psychologically manipulate a person's decisions concerning running to a victim. Now, they want to keep the homelessness current because that way, through the continued GPS tracking, they can track the target to the wooded area they're sleeping at and stage an event that produces the police. They can also privately collude with the individual who might own the property the target's sleeping on or going to hang out at, so they can be by themselves and are not being directly bothered, okay, with the community-based harassment that's directly connected to gang stalking. Now, they can look up and find out who owns the property the target's on by looking up the physical address of where the property is located, and then using the government agencies that are responsible for identifying the tax code of the tax ID number of who pays the taxes on the property. As a result, an address of that person is generated and possibly a phone number. They then will approach that person and apply the same techniques that they applied to the prospective landlord. We got a person who's under criminal investigation. We know they're on your property, so can you at least approach them and act like you're just coming on the property to check it, act like you're stumbling across them and tell them to leave. This is done additionally so the target is constantly kept in a non-stop business of moving from place to place. They will also GPS track a target to specific wooded areas in order to stage events. So those staged events can produce the police, so they can produce trauma, like assaults, rapes, robberies. If it's an event where they want the police to be involved in it, they will assault the target, and the persons that are used for it will let the target know intentionally that the event is because of gang stalking by making sure the target notices specific things that they do for the target to see and or hear. Now, these things that they want the target to see and or hear, so they can let the target creatively know that it is because of gang stalking, is by and through employing sensitization behaviors, sensitization methods. Okay, by engaging in specific physical gestures and or sounds. Now, a lot of the things that a target becomes, that they intentionally sensitize the target to, are things that everybody does. That way, the sensitization methods can be employed against the target anywhere, no matter where the target's at out and about in the community. And so their behaviors can be camouflaged to blend in with every environment. That way, the harassment can be perpetrated while it's being disguised. So research extensively sensitization methods of gang stalking. Now, the reason why when they stage a random area before, during, or after an assault or a robbery, the reason why they will intentionally engage in these specific behaviors, which cannot be proven because they won't admit it, and that is done to send the mental message to the target that this event is factually because of gang stalking. Now, after the target experiences the assault and calls the police won't arrive until the perpetrators who engaged in the assault are allowed to leave the area. And the target will be so pissed off because they've been hurt and possibly even robbed that when the police come, they will say, look, I know this was because of gang stalking. Now, there's a bunch of other techniques, though, that can be employed against the target that will induce the target to say that I know this is because of gang stalking. So, just as a sidebar notation, I strongly suggest you go to Google and research remote neural monitoring and remote neural monitoring forced-induced speech. Just do it. Okay, there's ex-CIA scientists all over the internet, like Dr. Robert Duncan, Dr. John Hall, who's all over YouTube exposing the technologies that are being used on gang stalking victims as well. Now, and so once the police come, the target will say, I know this assault was because of gang stalking. They'll act like they don't know what gang stalking is. They'll bait the target to talk about it. And they walk away with falsified police reports, incident sheets, or incident reports concerning the target's mental stability and their living situation. And then they repeat these events over time. So all this documentation can be accumulated over time. So they can then, when they eventually use the courts, they can say, Ms. Williams has a long chronic history of homelessness. We have all these different information sheets, incident reports, and police reports that we believe that she's mentally unstable, including using different police officers concerning each staged event. That way they can try and make it appear that numerous police officers are stating the same thing about the victim. You understand? The gang stalking. So it's basically nothing but a template of operations using the same exact techniques using different people. So, and then they take this documentation before the court, and then the court will petition the state to take legal custody of it to make it appear that it's all happening through legal channels and being done through legal proceedings legally. Okay, so the reason why when they stage an event to try and provoke a target to act out verbally and or physically, so when the police come, they can say, well, you need to go to the psychiatric ward. And this is done so when the doctor petitions the court to take legal custody of the target, okay, the target will never be allowed to appear in court during these proceedings to present the evidence. If I got arrested for illegal lodging or illegal encroachment or trespassing, okay, and I say that this is a staged event using a police officer for it, once I'm arrested or ticketed and put in jail and released, once that ticket, I can ask for a jury trial. Now, during that jury trial, I am allowed to exhibit, okay, and show all the evidence I got. Over 7,000 audio files of identical harassment that I've endured every day along my route since 2011. Identical verbal harassment, and tape recorders don't lie. I also have video files of law enforcement confessions, literally openly stating that they GPS tracked me to wooded areas and staged events. They know I got this evidence. So the only way that they can get around the fact that I would have the legal right to request a trial concerning an illegal lodging ticket or a trespassing ticket or a illegal encroachment ticket, the only way they can get around that to take away my right to request a trial is by creating an event and then using an event to petition the target in the psychiatric ward, and then the doctor from that psychiatric ward or medical center will petition the court. The court and the judge will then say, well, from all this paperwork, it sounds like you got a mental illness, and the target will never be allowed to physically present their evidence, because the court and the judge will act like it's just following all the legal proceedings pertaining to what brought the target to the psychiatric ward, and then the doctor plays its role. Because they want to be able to get the probate control without any contrasting evidence, so the target can prove that all this is set up, and this is how they operate. Do you understand? Now, the reason I made this video is to inform, to expose the truth, so the truth can be known for what it is. And that's why I attached my blog in that tweet link, which is incorporated within the title of this Periscope video. Let's see if this ever occurs towards me, including in the near immediate future. My name is Lester Williams. I made this video to inform, to expose the truth, and you would not believe what is in that blog. I mean, you'll believe it once you get into it, but you just would not believe it in reference to the nature. I mean, it's massive. Okay, hold on a second. Now, my fellow American citizens, there's many reasons why I decided to make this video today. I decided to make it in order to, because I know that there are a couple accounts that are following this Periscope account that are gang stalking victims, like, well, I'm not going to mention their names. So they can hopefully become educated pertaining to what I'm stating in case they don't know it already, and to inform the public. And my statements are predictions as well. Everything I stated in this video are predictions pertaining to what they might try and pull at wooded areas or along my routes, and this includes in any business, any library, any transportation service, or any walking route, or no matter where I'm at in the community. Bathrooms in businesses, checkout lanes, outside of the businesses, outside of the libraries, in the libraries, walking routes, transportation services, their transportations, bus routes, trolley stations, bus stops, because victims of gang stalking are literally stalked everywhere they go every single day. Now, it's already all over the internet. It's being exposed by tens of thousands of people that attempting to, one of the main goals of this crime is to intentionally try to mentally and verbally and physically provoke the target to act out. And this is done so the target can be arrested and falsified police documentation. Now, the police are all over the internet being exposed by tens of thousands of victims all over this country. They're nothing but organized crime controlled and organized crime syndicate members. That's all they are. It's all they'll ever be. And let me just interject this as well. Do you honestly think for 1 minute that a nationwide organized crime syndicate is going to stop being what they are just because one woman has evidence about them? No. What they're going to do is continue to employ their techniques. They're going to, the police and the government is going to completely, and which they've always done, is going to allow this crime to continue until they can achieve this criminal motivation. Because when you have a domestic violence abuse victim trapped in a home, they had no means to get out. They have no means to get out. They're in an isolated environment. Nobody knows what's happening to them. Well, when you're like right now, I'm still physically free, but I've been isolated from friendships. Okay, at this time, it's not prudent to try and connect with my family. I'm not going to expand on that. Okay. But you can go to Google. I'm not implying anything. I'm just stating you can go to Google and research family infiltration and gang stalking as well. It's all over the internet. My fellow American citizens, so because of the techniques pertaining to how gang stalking operates in reference to sabotaging already formed relationships of a human being and sabotaging any prospective relationships that are currently being cultivated, this crime intentionally sabotages them in order to isolate the victim. And this is done for many reasons, so they can continue their crime with no witnesses. Okay? And it's done because they don't want the target to have any... One of the main goals of gang stalking is to keep the target in a traumatized psychological effect every day. And this is done through many, many different techniques, okay? Periodic assaults, nonstop fear about being arrested for illegal lodging. A lot of this fear is cultivated through staged events, through... you would go to my blog, just go to my blog. Look at the text messages they sent to my older phone. Look at the attached PDF links of 3 letters they sent me in the mail. You just would not believe what's in that blog. You want to also pay attention to the sections within that blog that are titled Stalked in San Antonio and follow the instructions pertaining to those sections. That right there in your face will absolutely prove that I'm being stalked. Absolutely. Now, and it will also prove the fact pertaining to what I stated in this video, that these filthy maggots literally operate on the same template of methods and tactics. Because the Stalked in San Antonio section of my blog literally exposes how 4 victims, me being one of them, okay, of multiple different states, okay, are experiencing the same exact identical techniques. Now, the only way that could be occurring is that this organized crime syndicate is operating through a template of methods, okay? So, go to that blog. Just trust me. I guarantee you'll be glad you did. Now, you're not going to be able to dissect everything in that blog in one day. It's going to take at least a month. But trust me, you got to start somewhere. And I guarantee you'll be glad that you opened it up. Absolutely. And you'll be damn glad. I guarantee it. I'm like 100% guarantee you will be glad you went to that blog. Now, oh man, it's big stinking here. It smells like diesel fuel. Now, there's another aspect of this crime you need to also be concerned with. What I did was I employed my own strategies to prove this crime's happening to me by predicting what these wild criminal maggots would do before they do it in email files, tweets on Twitters, video files, Periscope videos. And whenever you publish something online, it's usually got a time and date stamp on it. And then if they do what I predict, after it's predicted, it's caught on my tape recorder and or video file. Tape recorders and video cameras also have time and date stamps. So you can also witness in my blog, okay, statements that I made back in Michigan. And a lot of those statements that are made, okay, are specific. All those statements that are made are detailed and specific in reference to the descriptions of what I stated I was enduring in Michigan. Now, those Google group forum posts and the emails that are incorporated in my blog concerning Michigan's gang stalking, okay, the descriptions within them, and those Google group forum posts and the emails had time and date stamps on them. Now, the descriptions within them are identical to the audio and video evidence that I've caught here in San Diego since I've been in San Diego on August 8, 2011, up and through and to this date. Identical to a T. Now, this not only proves that I was being gang stalked in Michigan, but it also proves the duration of this crime. It also proves the fact that I was obviously telling the truth, and am still experiencing this crime, which shows the duration of it, at least a portion of the duration of it. So, my fellow American citizens, I made this video today in order to inform, to expose the truth, so the truth can be known for what it is. Now, at the beginning of this video, I stated that the reason why I decided to make lawyer videos and incorporate my blog within the title of this Periscope video is because when you go to see a lawyer, okay, lawyers can also be part of this crime. Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, what do you think prosecutors and public defenders are? They're lawyers. What do you think members of the DA's office are? They're lawyers. Okay, what do you think judges are? They're usually lawyers too. But also lawyers in the private sector can be brought on board in these campaigns, and or, okay, they can also be syndicate members who are already part of the syndicate or can be paid and bought off by the syndicate covertly to work against the target while they're acting like they're advocating for the target. But also pay attention to this. When you look up on the internet lawyers, a lawyer and or their law firm, 95% of the time you're going to run across on their website a feature on it that says, tell us why you're contacting us, give us your name, your phone number, and tell us a brief description of why you're contacting us. Well, you can go to Google at any time and research cell phone call rerouting, okay, where they will hack into the target's phone and reroute the phone calls the target tries to make, and or intercept the incoming calls. I've literally seen information online where these criminally insane maggots will literally pretend to be the people you're calling by rerouting your phone call to them. Okay, literally, Google it. It's all over the internet. They will also fake email replies. Like, say if a target decides to email a lawyer, okay, they can intercept that email interception, and fake and email replies are all over the internet to be a method of this crime. and they'll basically, or they can, they can also hack into the lawyer's email account, okay, and send the targeted email from that account. Observe when the target's getting it, and then just go into that lawyer's email account, and erase it. Absolutely. Cyber hacking, computer hacking, cyber surveillance is all over the internet to be directly connected to this crime. And all my descriptions are all over the internet, being exposed by tens of thousands of people. So how can you connect with a lawyer, okay, if when you go into the law firm, if they're not there? Well, you would leave some documentation with the receptionist for the lawyer. Well, for one, you don't even know for sure if that documentation is ever going to reach the lawyer. And how then is the lawyer going to recontact you to set up an appointment if your phone's hacked? If it's true that it's all over the internet being exposed by thousands of victims, that phone calls are being rerouted. How are you ever going to connect with that lawyer? So one of the best things to do is to make a video and tell them your story, and then copy and paste that URL link of that video into an email file, and then fax it to the lawyer so they can watch it, so you can talk to them personally. And this is one of the reasons why I make videos. See, we as American citizens, we have to try and be creative. And you don't even have to be an American citizen, because this crime is also going on in many other countries as well. Google that. Absolutely. Like Japan, China. It's going on, and I've seen tweets on Twitter from victims of this crime in Poland. Literally. Okay. So, we have to be creative by realizing how these maggots operate and then trying to work around it, while at the same time employing our own strategies to prove this criminality is happening to us, to target the police legally. Because when they won't file a police report or investigate what's happening to you, there's obviously have to be a reason. Well, Google GangStalking and police. Now, conspiracy, collusion, solicitation, gross negligence of duty, these are all laws that are on the law books, meaning that they have penal codes and government codes connected to these being actual laws. But the government will act like you're crazy if you're claiming that a police officer is privately conspiring against you, even though conspiracy under the color of authority is a law. They'll literally call you crazy right to your face, even though conspiracy under the color of authority is a law. Now, a corrupt, criminal, demented, insane cop who's connected to these crimes is not going to walk up to you or testify in court that he's part of these crimes. No. What he's going to do is behave in a way that what he's going to do is engage in the protocols of gang stalking, which are techniques, in order to hide his or her behavior, and then literally engage in a gang stalking technique, which is calling the target crazy, okay, as a result of the target stating they're a gang stalking victim. Stating that a gang stalking victim is crazy is a method of gang stalking, and the police will do it on police reports, incident sheets, and information sheets, even though it's a method of gang stalking. Google that. Implying or stating that a target is mentally ill or crazy is a method of gang stalking, and they literally put it on their police reports, information sheets, and incident reports. So they believe all they have to do is do these things and follow the template of protocols of gang stalking and call the target crazy, yet there are laws, literal laws. You can type this in at Google right now. Conspiracy under the color of authority. You can also go to Google and type in collusion laws, conspiracy laws, solicitation laws. And solicitation laws have to do with soliciting any person to engage in a criminal activity, an illegal activity. Now, when who's ever using these individuals for the staged events and the staged harassment, who's ever using those people are engaging in conspiracy to commit a crime. They're engaging in solicitation because they're literally getting someone to commit the crime, okay? And the police, when they cover it up, that's conspiracy under the color of authority. So these are all crime. These are all penal codes of actual. I'm losing my train. I'm a little tongue-tied right now. These are all penal codes of actual laws. Okay. But they act like all they got to do is say, well, you're crazy and we don't know what you're talking about, and walk away and file their falsified documentation, and that's it, and present it before the court. And then the judges play their role, and they act like all they got to do is follow this criminal protocol and that everything's going to be okay. When what they're actually doing is breaking the law as a result of me presenting to you what laws are being broken. And these are just a few of many. See, an organized crime police officer is not going to ever admit that he's involved in crime because he'll lose his job and go to jail. And he can also be sued through civil court. So any police officer, whether it be just a beat cop, or a police officer who's in the higher echelon of the police department, like captains and sergeants, they're never going to openly admit in court or to any target's face that they're involved in organized crime. What they're going to do, though, is they're going to literally follow the protocols of gang stalking by literally calling the target crazy or mentally ill, or that they're a threat to themselves or others, or can't take care of themselves. And then they're going to play their role in reference to how their employment description is needed in order to get the probate control in reference to what I've already aforementioned, pertaining to how they operate and collude together. Private collusion. You can get a wild, criminally insane judge who will act like he's a judge. He wears a black robe. He's processing cases every day of people breaking the law. Well, let me give you a tidbit of information pertaining to how there's organized crime judges. Well, Google that for one. How many judges have been arrested and jailed? Well, let me give you a tidbit of information. It's racketeering, okay, pertaining to my follow-up statements. Now, and by the way, when they get probate control and put a target in a group home, okay, the gang stalking continues. Absolutely. And massive insurance fraud and cures, human trafficking, where the food and drug of the target is drugged, and when the drug takes effect, the victim is raped, and the rape is videotaped and sold to pornography groups. Okay, the target is routinely set up for staged events in these homes and petitioned into the psychiatric board for insurance fraud, and the owners of the home will apply for federal and state funds per client, and the victim becoming one of the clients. So they're making massive amounts of money off the target every day. Okay, go away, squirrel. Every day, okay, and the target can also be experimented on, okay, in these homes. So you can also go to Google and research human experimentation and gang stalking. So my fellow American citizens, and this human experimentation does encompass torture. The gang stalking itself is nothing but torture, because a huge aspect of it is nothing but psychological operations, mental and psychological violence and abuse, and menticide. If you don't know what that means, it means mental rape. Mental rape concerning what they're perpetrating against the target sticks up for themselves. They claim it's not happening in order to rape the resulting thought processes of what the target is actually experiencing. So where they're literally raping the target's thought processes pertaining to what the target is factually experiencing, just like the cops do. It's called gaslighting. Okay, when the cops come out and they act like they don't know what gang stalking is, they'll bait the victim to open up about it. The victim does, and they'll say, well, that sounds crazy. You must be crazy. That's mental rape. Okay, so when you go to the blog and you see all the evidence in it, you're going to be able to see truth. Absolutely. And what's in that blog is nothing compared to what I'm carrying on my person. So, now, you can go to Google and you can type in Pennsylvania judge sentenced to 28 years for pipelining first-time misdemeanor children for sentencing first-time misdemeanor children to the full maximum sentence. And basically what he was doing was, anytime a child got arrested for any misdemeanor, first-time misdemeanor offense, he would sentence that child to the full maximum sentence, because judges operate on a guideline of sentencing pertaining to the violation. What he would do is, whenever a child came into his courtroom and was charged with a misdemeanor, including first-time offenses, he would sentence those children to the full maximum sentence, meaning a detention center is where they were sent. The detention center, which was privately owned, received federal funds per client. When those funds came in, the detention center would pipeline a portion of those funds back to the judge, and he got caught, and he got 28 years. So don't think that judges not are involved in racketeering schemes. Now, when a target is put in a group home, and they are continually set up for staged events, and then they're blamed for each event, and then told they got to go into a psychiatric ward to get on other medication because the ones they're currently on, that they're criminally put on, are not working, these are the excuses that the group home owners will use. So they'll say, well, you're causing too many problems with fellow clients or visiting people, and so you better go back into the psychiatric ward to get a different medication because you're out of control. And this is done for continued insurance fraud and updated criminal illegal diagnoses. And that way they can justify the continued probate control. So you got insurance fraud, them applying for federal and state funds for a client, the human experimentation, where the research from it is being sold to research groups where they're making millions, and the human trafficking. While the victim is left tortured every day eating bologna sandwiches, while their freedom and their total life has been completely destroyed. Paybacks are a bitch, SDPD. Fuck you. Absolutely. Everything that I have done from August 8, 2011 up and through this date and past it has been a direct payback to STPD for the staged event that they brought about using open gang-stalking techniques towards me in 2006, which led to years of exploitation monetarily, was any of it also sexually, and massive crimes that are still ongoing to this day. Paybacks are a bitch, and I will never stop until you're exposed in court, no matter what you ever do, no matter how long it takes. And now UCSD police are also brought on board in reference to, pertaining to, me never letting them go until they're factually exposed concerning what they've done, and other police departments as well. Why is it that you can go to Google and research how there's tens of thousands of victims of this crime all over America exposing the police if they're not involved? Victims who have never spoken to each other. There's got to be some truth in there somewhere, baby cakes. So research what I've stated and you will see truth. Let's see if I'm arrested for illegal lodging, illegal encroachment, or trespassing in the next 60 days from this little second floor. Let's see if anybody tries to assault me or take anything from me or create any type of incident at any wooded area from the second floor. And let's also see if any place that I ever use at any wooded area is taken over by anybody once I leave that wooded area to go about my day during the days. Because that's how they squeeze you out of a secure place to a more isolated wooded area, so you can be robbed, raped, assaulted, or whatever. This is gang stalking, and what I do is expose it. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.